John Jocelyn speaking for the Associated Gun Clubs of Baltimore. We've had such a lively discussion on live fire and a divergent opinion. Let's talk about something that we agreed on. We agreed, as did the Maryland State Police, that the requirements under the concealed carry permit law does require live fire. The language is a firearms qualification component that demonstrates the applicant's proficiency in use of the firearm. This is not in dispute. We have mutually agreed that this does indicate that live fire is required. But conversely, removing that identical language from the handgun qualification license has just the opposite effect. It removes the requirement for live fire. If it were not the intent to remove that component, why was it amended? If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. Margaret Thatcher once said, if you have to tell people that you're a lady, you're not. Yet the Maryland State Police had to go to a number of people asking them if it included live fire. When in doubt, you can go back to what you deleted. There was no reason to take it out unless the reason was to take out live fire. We have a very simple thing that for some reason we're at loggerheads about because we won't let logic prevail. The committee intentionally removed the language for live fire. We question the value of it. We also look at the practicality. I have 5 different ranges involved in my association, the largest of which is at Marriottsville. None of our ranges are served by mass transit. Many of our ranges, by charter or by other zoning limitations, cannot do commercial training. We simply do not have the infrastructure to carry this requirement to fruition. That is one of the reasons, following our testimony, that the committee did, rightfully so, remove this requirement. You should also consider that many ranges are rifle only and aren't set up physically to do a handgun training course. This is going to have a very detrimental effect on those persons who do not have access. I'd like to touch now very briefly on the permit requirements. We are required, when we as instructors teach the concealed carry course that's required under this bill, that we inform our students as to when and where they can carry a concealed handgun. The question is, what do we teach them? The Maryland State Police routinely change the restrictions on the permits, and virtually all permits are restricted. These changes are not announced, they simply happen. As an instructor, I cannot teach a student when and where they can carry, because at that time the student has not yet received the carry permit, so the restrictions that may or may not be on it are unknown to the instructor as well as the student. We get ourselves into a you can't get there from here circular argument. Now, why is this so important? It's important because another section of this legislation established a penalty for carrying a firearm by a person who has a carry permit outside the restrictions of that carry permit. This penalty is up to 3 years. Anything over 2 years is a permanent disqualifier. For an accidental transgression, a law-abiding citizen who has a carry permit could lose their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms for the rest of their lives. That makes it so important that we know what's going to happen when we're teaching. And the only way we can know that is for the Maryland State Police to terminate the practice of arbitrarily applying restrictions to each and every carry permit. The language of the legislation says the Secretary may restrict a permit. May restrict a permit. May is an option. A is singular, permit is singular. If the General Assembly had intended it otherwise, they would have written, the Secretary shall restrict all permits. They did not, because that was never their intent. The Maryland State Police have grossly exceeded their authority under the statute for years and years, and this particular legislation is going to force that issue to come to the forefront, because we cannot fulfill the obligations for training unless we know what to train the people on. That concludes my statement. Thank you.